I happen to believe in life after death, but I don't think it's got a thing to do with reward and punishment. Religion is always in the control business, and that's something people don't really understand. It's in the guilt-producing control business. And if you have heaven as a place where you're rewarded for your goodness and hell as a place where you're punished for your evil, then you sort of have control of the population. And so they create this fiery place, which has quite literally scared the hell out of a lot of people throughout Christian history. And it's part of a control tactic.
But wait a minute, you're saying that hell, the idea of a place under the earth or somewhere where you're tormented for an eternity, is actually an invention of the church?
I think the church fired its furnaces hotter than anybody else. But I think there's a sense in most religious life of reward and punishment in some form. The church doesn't like for people to grow up, because you can't control grown-ups. That's why we talk about being born again. When you're born again, you're still a child. The people don't need to be born again. They need to grow up. They need to accept their responsibility for themselves and the world. And eventually, I think we're going to discover that God is unfolding through the life of our consciousness and our self-consciousness, and is not a parent figure up in the sky.
Well, you don't have to go up in the sky to fight the devil. You can fight the devil right here on earth. You can, cause that's why he is down here trying to mess with people. Yeah.
Why he talking to Richard? Why his mouth I hear him?
Oh, you hear the devil running his mouth?
Talking. Just talk. Just run that mouth.
Oh, really?
Just run that mouth. I don't want to hear it.
Oh, okay.
Busting that devil up. He need to stop playing with me and all my fellas. I don't even play.
You're living at a time of extremism, a time of revolution, a time when there's got to be a change.
Police officer.
I'm your brother Knowledge Amun Ray. You know, on the Ethiopian New Year of September 11, 2001, which marks the true New World Order Sun Cycle Equinox. For me, it was a game changer. It made me think differently. I recall that day like it was yesterday in my home city, Philadelphia. Alstomere Middle School, 7th grade, room 272, watching the TV, watching the towers on fire, watching my teachers cry, not understanding what's going on, you know. And I just wanted to know from that day on. I just stopped believing things on face value. I didn't want to know what a book said out of your mouth, you know what I mean? I wanted to read it myself. You know, this day should be an eye-opener for you also as a conscious American. Every American must wake up to this truth, to these facts. And the truth is, they lying to us, man.
The New York City Police Department has a report that the FBI is responding to New Jersey because a truck reportedly loaded with explosives has been stopped by authorities on the road there, and the men with that truck have been detained. Members of the Joint Terrorist Task Force, according to the New York police officials, are responding to question those people. I want to underline that all the phones to police headquarters and to the FBI from here seem to be disabled. So sorting through these reports to get specifics, to sort them out, can sometimes take time. But this is information that is in the possession of the police department, comes from the FBI, and we don't know the exact significance of it.
That is the information that I am getting from two sources, that there was a van either on the New Jersey Turnpike or the Garden State Parkway, and that it was near the George Washington Bridge. There were 2 or 3 men who were in the van. The van was pulled over. It is not clear why the van was pulled over, but when it was, law enforcers found tons of explosives inside of the van. That is right now all I'm hearing, but again, 2 to 3 people in custody, and we are trying to get more information on that right now.
Deborah, I don't mean to put you on the spot here. Do you know where on the Jersey Turnpike this was? How far from New York City?
We do not know that. We are looking into that. There is one report that it was on the New Jersey Turnpike. There is another report that it was very close to the bridge, if not on the bridge. So again, these details are all emerging, and we're trying to piece them together. But that's what we've got so far. 2 to 3 people in custody right now, found with a van filled with explosives.
Can you talk about this incident that came up on Channel 2 about some people coming across the GW Bridge explosives? Can you comment on that at all?
I haven't seen the report, and I haven't heard about anybody coming across the bridge with explosives. Okay.
Have you heard anything about the van on the Jersey side?
Well, I've heard basically the same thing you have. We haven't been able to confirm it yet. They weren't near the bridge, to my understanding. If it in fact did happen, we're trying to confirm it through our detective bureau.
One more question on this.
South of 14th Street, that includes all bridges and tunnel crossings south of 14th Street. Those are closed down for
any movement south of 14th Street.
And you have not heard about any explosives on the George Washington Bridge or in the Lincoln Tunnel?
Nope.
Commissioner,
Thank you.
It was in Jersey near the bridge. Is that your understanding? Do you know the jurisdiction?
Well, what we heard was Port Authority police stopped a van that might have had explosives in it. We haven't been able to confirm it yet. We're working on it. When we hear something, we'll let you know.
That's on the Jersey side, right?
It's on the Jersey side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and we'll be back. So we don't have to go through this. How long? I'm hopeful.
Okay, what you have just seen there is Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik not confirming any reports at this point. Reports that we have heard that there was a truck loaded with possibly explosives near the vicinity of the George Washington Bridge, and he said that those reports have not been confirmed. The police department are checking on it right now.
Let's go a little bit deeper here. Take, for instance, just the country of Iraq. Before the 2003 U.S. invasion, do you know how many suicide attacks there were in Iraq? None. In the country's history, there had never been one. But since the 2003 invasion, there have been 1,892. In Iraq, prior to the start of the Iraq War, there were reportedly just over 1.5 million Christians living in that country. 1.5 million. And yet, shortly after the war started, over 1 million of them fled to Syria. That didn't work out well there, certainly. And today, fewer than 500,000 Christians remain, and yet are being exterminated by groups like ISIS. And what about Afghanistan? Just last year alone, insurgents killed 2,643 civilians, the highest number since the UN began keeping records. How about Pakistan? In the 14 years prior to 9/11, get this, there was only one suicide attack on Pakistani soil. In the 14 years since, 486 suicide attacks. The same is true in the past 14 years in Somalia, 88, Yemen, 85, Libya, 29, Nigeria 91, and in Syria 165. So what you need to know is that 14 years after this so-called war on terror began, the United States is on track to have spent $6 trillion on just the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Putting that into perspective, that means that we have spent $75,000 per American household, most of it borrowed money. What's more, nearly 7,000 U.S. military personnel have died. Tens of thousands more are being lost every day as 22 U.S. veterans commit suicide each day. If we're to be honest here, the only thing that the war on terror seems to have brought us and the rest of the world is more war and more terror. That's Reality Check.
When will you learn, man? The people in power do not care about us. Politicians, the president, do not care about you.
Freedom agenda in the Middle East. They were... What did Iraq have to do with what?
The attack on the World Trade Center.
Nothing.